want to take you back to 1985, the year that we all came together with love for Live Aid and all came together with disgust for New Coke. And it was the year that only the cool kids were driving Sinclair C5s. If you weren't driving one, you weren't a cool kid. I don't make the rules. It was also the year that Vince McMahon put everything on one wrestling show. An event that would either bankrupt or bankroll him for years to come. How did it go? Well, the fact that we're talking about it now suggests that it probably went all right. But did it go all right on the night? How about you and I hop in the old DeLorean and find out right now. My name is Tom Campbell and this is WrestleMania 1 Retrograded. So this is a brand new series on Cultaholic where we're looking back at some classic wrestling shows and giving some grades and seeing how they did. This one is the obvious one to start on. Back before the granddaddy of them all even had his training wheels off. We have to talk about the show from Madison Square Garden, Gorilla Monsoon and Jesse Ventura at ringside, and an incredibly nervous Lord Alfred Hayes doing bits just by the entrance. Really weird to have Lord Alfred Hayes there throughout the night, just awkwardly explaining the matches through. You could tell the guy was terrified. Also, the version on the WWE Network, for obvious reasons, sadly, misses out on some of the incredible WrestleMania soundtracks that they used. Phil Collins and Phil Bailey's Easy Lover was the first soundtrack to WrestleMania. I know, when I think wrestling, I think Phil Bailey saying, "Here's the one who wants to hold ya and control ya, get it." You get it. National anthem duties fall to Mean Gene Okerlund. I get the vibe that he was told very lastminute.com that he's doing the anthem because he stood there, God bless him, with the words to the national anthem, the Star Spangled Banner, written on what looks like the back of a bookie sheet. Nailed it! A+ Gene. Big fan of your work. The answer to the greatest wrestling trivia question is beginning our journey today. It is the Executioner versus Tito Santana, the first match on the first ever WrestleMania. This is actually a bit of a blowover from a rivalry that Tito Santana was having with then Intercontinental Champion Greg the Hammer Valentine. And Greg had been trying to injure Tito Santana's leg, and the Executioner was going straight for that leg on Tito, constantly wearing it down with elbows and kicks, going for the figure four, and it just wasn't happening. Tito just kept on fighting back and fighting back. He throws the Executioner out of the ring late into the match, suplexes him back in, big old flying forearm, and what a message to send to Greg Valentine by winning the match via submission with the figure four leg lock. Eat that hammer jammer, and Tito Santana gets his only ever WrestleMania win in the opening match at WrestleMania 1. Giving this match a C, very basic, by the numbers affair that was here to get the story of Tito Santana over a little bit more. Crowd are really into it as well. Good stuff. Next up, Special Delivery Jones takes on King Kong Bundy. Backstage before this, SD Jones is pumped up for WrestleMania. He's telling people to buy the hats and have a good time. Buy the hats, people. Buy the hats. This is another amazing wrestling trivia question in match form. The bell sounds. SD Jones charges at King Kong Bundy, gets into a bear hug, gets pushed into the corner, avalanche, big splash, 1, 2, 3. In a kayfabe 9 seconds, it was actually about 20 odd, but shh, don't tell anybody. In 9 seconds, King Kong Bundy defeats SD Jones. Giving this a C+, it was fine. Good showcase for King Kong Bundy, who next year will have much bigger fish to fry than SD Jones. Don't mean to be rude, special delivery, but It's kind of true. No clowning around in our next match. It's Matt Borne taking on Ricky Steamboat, who debuted with the WWF about a month before this. So he's a fresh-faced guy, and I love watching Ricky Steamboat at this point. Like, everything he does feels really crisp and fresh and new. Those knife-edge chops to Borne, just wiping him out. Borne makes a bit of a rally, couple of combination suplexes, nice gut-wrenchy one, belly-to-back one, suplexy vertical style one. But tonight, Ricky Steamboat will not be denied. Knife-edge chops and a crossbody off the top rope. Impressive style. 1, 2, 3. Ricky Steamboat wins at WrestleMania. This was a B for me. Great match between Ricky Steamboat and the man who would go on to be called Doink the Clown. Borne was always a great technician. And Steamboat as well just looks like a fresh-faced star. And we wouldn't see him in a real title pictures for a while, but in the spell between here and a future WrestleMania, he'd do some exciting stuff with Jake Roberts, and maybe we'll talk about that in another retrograded. Maybe we will. Nepotism on a poll for our next one. It is Brutus Beefcake, an embryonic Brutus Beefcake. Before he got his barber's license, with Johnny Valiant in his corner, taking on David Sammartino with his dad, one of the all-time greats, Bruno Sammartino, in his. The fact that Howard Finkel announces Bruno after David shows where the energy is going here. David Sammartino, the son of Bruno. Oh, stocky boy, very stocky. This was a really interesting affair, a very slow sort of ground and pound style by David. Now, don't get me wrong, David Sammartino, actually a very accomplished mat wrestler. Like, looks really good in points like this. But, how do I say this nicely? The guy's a charisma black hole. Just like, he barely looks up. He's a bit like that person that you cross in the street and you try not to make eye contact with them. Like, he's a bit like that. Like, he barely looks up and acknowledges the crowd, and he's the baby face here. Whenever he is on offense, it is slow, technical style, and it's Brutus who kind of realizes we've got to entertain here. So Brutus, whenever he's in control of the match, it's quick kicks and stomps and showboating to the crowd. Brutus really brings his end up in the match. The match wears on, and David Sammartino gets thrown to the outside, and he gets body slammed by Johnny Valiant for his trouble. This brings round Bruno, and the crowd lose their minds. It's the loudest they've been for this entire match. We get a 4-man schmoz as David and Bruno, the Sammartino lads, fight off Beefcake and Valiant, send them scurrying to the back. And there's Bruno holding up his son's hand, and the ref declares it a double disqualification. Oh, this was a D+. Oh, sorry, but it wasn't very good. Like, David Sammartino, I think they had high hopes on being a guy. Like, he was the first person on this night to actually get an entrance rather than already being in the ring. So you kind of got the vibe that they've got some high hopes for him, but we wouldn't see him at WrestleMania again. And if you take time to watch this match, you'll probably get why. Our first title match of the night up next. It's the Intercontinental Heavyweight Championship. Greg the Hammer Valentine with Jimmy Hart in his corner, taking on the Junkyard Dog, JYD, who actually on the night came out to Queen's Another One Bites the Dust, but it's been dubbed over with Grab Them Cakes for network purposes. JYD, just a great sports entertainer in this match. Him and Greg have a really fun fight. Like Greg can't get a purchase on JYD to get started. JYD doing the all fours headbutts, and it's just frazzling Greg Valentine. Hammer goes for a figure 4 late in this match, and Junkyard Dog denies him. Jimmy Hart tries to get involved, and he gets accidentally clobbered by Greg Valentine, and it looks like JYD is going to overcome these odds and become the Intercontinental Champion. But suddenly, out of nowhere, Greg Valentine pushes Dog down, rolls him up onto his shoulders, and then uses his feet as leverage and gets the cheeky, filthy 3 count on the JYD. Greg Valentine retains his title. And as Greg and Jimmy are celebrating outside the ring, here comes Tito Santana. Remember, they got problems at the moment. And Tito's like, hey, ref, the flipping at his feet on the ropes. What are you doing? This can't go on. How are you playing that? So the referee says the match is restarting and gives Greg till the count of 10 to get back into the ring. And here's something you don't see in modern wrestling. Whereas normally the wrestler would be furious and like at 9 sort of roll back into the ring and carry on. Greg just takes the count out. Greg goes, all right, oh, bye. JYD celebrating in the ring despite not winning the Intercontinental Championship. Rare to see the heel just go, actually, nah, you've got this, I'll see you in a bit. I'm giving this a B-. It was a really fun knockabout affair. Very sports entertainment-y. And you know what? After watching David Sammartino in the last match, oh, this was a palate cleanser. The WWF Tag Team titles are on the line now. It is the US Express, Barry Windham and Mike Rotundo, facing off the Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkoff. Fun trivia fact here, the music is dubbed on the network version, but Rotundo and Barry come out to Real American by Rick Derringer. They had this music for ages and they gave it to these lads, and actually in a few months' time they go, that suits Hulk Hogan better. We're going to give it to Hulk Hogan, which is why they dub over it, presumably, on the network. They own it, but I guess it's rewriting history, innit? This is your atypical America versus the world match. We get the national anthem of the Soviet Union from Volkoff. We get Iron Sheik spitting at the mention of America. Out come America boys, and they're America-ing up. They're fighting off the evil foreigners. We see shenanigans with Iron Sheik using that Iranian boots to get an advantage over the Express. Nikolai Volkoff just being dastardly in this one. It was just a real fun knockabout match between America and the world. Late into the match, the man who would go on to be known as IRS gets himself well out of the metaphorical tax year and tags Barry Windham, who goes wild on everybody. Hits a beauty of a bulldog on Nikolai Volkoff. But there's the Iron Sheik, who has got the cane of classy Freddie Blassie, his corner man, and he's just cracked it over the head of Barry Windham, leaving him wide open for a cover. 1, 2, 3, and we have new WWF Tag Team Champions in the Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkoff. They're backstage after this, doing your standard evil heel celebration. Oh, dastardly, dastardly. You know what? I'm giving this a B-. I really enjoyed it. Fun knockabout match. I keep saying knockabout. I feel like I'm properly in the 80s. Fun knockabout match between these guys. I like the chemistry of Mike and Barry. Like, they're one of those teams that you forget about. Really enjoyed that. And now we have evil tag team champions. Up next, the $15,000 Bodyslam Challenge. Big John Studd versus Andre the Giant. If Andre can't win, he must retire. Bobby Heenan in Big John Studd's corner. As the wrestling world would pan out, that's a very weird thing to see. As far as this match goes, okay. I know that Andre the Giant is the 8th wonder of the world. He is a wrestling treasure. I know that, but I'm grading. This was awful. This was awful. This was like one long, very wobbly collar and elbow tie-up that went around the ring. It got light. Right, this says it all. It got lively when Andre started using shin kicks. That's when it got lively. This was Andre just doing long bear hugs and having a little sleep. It was tough to watch. And then out of nowhere, picks up Big John Studd, body slam. The body slam gets a huge pop, possibly the biggest pop of the night. That has to be said. It was a massive reaction for the win. And afterwards, Andre the Giant grabs the money that Big John Studd has brought with him, this bag full of money, full of $15,000, starts throwing it into the crowd until Bobby Heenan snatches the bag and takes a powder. Andre the Giant wins the Body Slam Challenge, but certainly isn't going to win match of the night tonight. This was a D-. I'm sorry. I know Andre's a national treasure. I'm probably a terrible person, but this was a bad match. This was really bad. And Andre will do better stuff and more sort of... It doesn't have to be like fast-paced, high-octane wrestling. It just has to have a little bit of like methodicalness to it. Add none of that. Rubbish. Sorry, lads. The WWF Ladies Championship / Women's Championship is on the line next. They can't decide what they call it at this point. I heard it called both throughout this match. It is Leilani Kai with the fabulous Moolah in her corner taking on Wendy Richter with, you know this is coming, Cyndi Lauper in her corner. Nobody, I don't think anybody, has taken to wrestling the way that Cyndi Lauper took to it in the 80s. Like, Cyndi did quite a few little bits with the WWF in the run up to this and just after this. She was really helping that connection with MTV. And she just threw herself into it. She's a sports entertainer written all over her. This was a really scrappy affair for the title. Like, a lot of techers at the start, a lot of hair pulling and strikes, and it just got a little bit messy. But it felt like a grudge match. Like, this felt like two people who hate each other fighting for a belt. Moolah tried to get involved and she was pulling on the hair of Richter. Round comes Cyndi Lauper with a towel and just whips Moolah away. Lauper, you legend. This one ends with Leilani Kai coming off the top with a crossbody, and Richter hits the ground, but then the momentum she uses rolls her through. She makes the cover, and 1, 2, 3, Wendy Richter has become the WWF Women's / Ladies Champion, and her and Cyndi Lauper do that iconic celebration ring around the rosy in the center of the ring. This was a great moment, and I'm giving this match a B. I thought it was a really solid, intense rivalry type match for the time. Like, this really was a lively affair between two people that gelled very well together. I enjoyed it, like, and the crowd were really into it as well. Like, we are millions and millions of miles away from the women's revolution at this point, and we're millions and millions of miles away from being at a point where, you know, like, there is, like, gender really is just a word. It doesn't really mean as much as it did. But I love the fact that this match had the build that it did, had the focus that it did, and was the semi-main event. And it didn't act like a semi-main event match. You know, sometimes you've got the match for the main and it's like the toilet break match. This did not act like a toilet break match. This felt like a strong contender for one of the top matches of the night, and I loved it. So we come to main event o'clock. It is Roddy Piper and Paul Orndorff with the daddy of the Viper, Cowboy Bob Orton, in their corner, taking on Hulk Hogan and Mr. T with Jimmy Snuka in their corner. So this is a special affair, right? So let me introduce you to the other cast of characters around this match. So we've got a baseball legend in Jimmy Martin making the ring announcing, and he's doing it like he's never announced a name before. We have Liberace as the guest timekeeper. He comes out with the Rockettes and dances for 4 hours. He even brings his own bell. We have special guest outside referee Muhammad Ali. So we've got this. There is this one point, and it's as Roddy Piper makes his entrance with Paul Orndorff, Bob Orton, and a whole fleet of bagpipe players. We have this one moment where you've got Piper and Orndorff in the ring. You've got bagpipers playing their socks off all around the ring. You've got Muhammad Ali in there. You've got Liberace outside just ringing the bell. This main event, right? And I say it with love, this is a hot mess. This is such a hot mess. Out comes Hulk Hogan and Mr. T. I mentioned earlier that it was Barry and Mike that used Real American, and it was at this show that Hogan and Mr. T actually came out to Survivor's Eye of the Tiger. Obviously it's dubbed over with Real American on the network version, but nice little trivia note for you. Mr. T is champing at the bit to start, and you know what? Mr. T looks great in there with Roddy Piper. Hits him with a fireman's carry takedown early on into this match, and as the match wears on, like, Mr. T clearly has been doing some training. He really gets into this. The baddies nearly take a walk, but they decide to come back only to eat body slams by Hogan and Mr. T. They eventually start wearing down Hogan, and it's up to Hogan to get the hot tag to Mr. T. And then Mr. T gets beaten down and he manages to get the hot tag to Hogan. There is chaos everywhere around the ring. Muhammad Ali at one point is getting amongst it as well. He's stopping people from getting involved. He swings a fist at at Cowboy Bob Orton at one point. The finish comes with Bob Orton, actually. He climbs up to the top rope. He's got that cast on his arm. He comes off the top to hit Hogan, who's being held by Paul Orndorff. Hogan moves and Orndorff just eats the cast. Hogan makes the cover. 1, 2, 3. Hogan and Mr. T win the main event of WrestleMania, and we see Piper take a powder along with the Cowboy. Paul Orndorff is out cold, comes to his senses, and eventually takes his leave as well. And then we've got the iconic moment at the end of WrestleMania where Hulk Hogan, Mr. T, Muhammad Ali, and Liberace are all just chilling. It's a hot mess. It's an absolute hot mess, but it's a hot mess that I'm giving an A to, because it is this hot mess that put wrestling on the map, pretty much. It is this hot mess that changed the shape of professional wrestling. Seeing all these unique people from the entertainment world finally getting involved with their wrestling business was really cool to see. And it wasn't the worst match either. The crowd were white hot through all of it. Like, anything that happened, I genuinely think Hulk Hogan could have sat in the centre of the ring and filled out his self-assessment tax return, and the people would have lost their minds for it. Overall, I'm giving the first WrestleMania a B. I know you're probably thinking, oh, it should be an A, it's the first WrestleMania, you're not giving it an A. I'm not, because, right, quite a bit of the wrestling was alright, not great. Some lot of filler stuff in there. Some bang average stuff. But you know what? This is the first WrestleMania, so it's not going to be perfect. It's absolutely not going to be perfect. The fun is, with anything, is in the mistakes that you make and how you fix it to make it better next time. And there was loads that needed to be fixed and tweaked, but it's the first time they've ever done it, you know? But as a piece of wrestling history and as a wrestling show in itself, it's a fun show. It's a really fun show. That's why I'm giving it a B. I'd like to know what you'd give it. Let me know in the comments below. And if there's any other wrestling shows you would love to see on Retro Graded, let me know in the comments down there. We might end up doing them in a little bit. Hopping back in the DeLorean now. I'm going to go back to 2020. Love you, bye.